What is up? Welcome back to the What the Chuck podcast, brought to you by the 208 Breakdown. I am Brantley McFetridge, and let's get right into it. East Region overview and volleyball expectations on today's episode. We are going to be overviewing the East Region, the region that our TVCC Chuckers participate in, pretty much the division that we participate in just in the world of the Northwest Athletic Conference. And we're also going to be giving expectations of the TVCC volleyball team and all the other teams in the East region based on a level of consistency over the past 5 years. Based on what they've done the last 5 years, this is probably what's going to happen this year. Now, there's going to be another view of things from my perspective where I look at statistics and recruiting that happened this offseason and how I see what's going to happen this year in East Region volleyball. But as of today, we're from a consistency perspective and standpoint, this is probably what to expect for the 2026-2027 athletic campaign for the East Region in the Northwest Athletic Conference. And obviously, we are going to give you news about your Treasure Valley Chuckers. But first, let's officially meet the teams in the East Region, in the NWAC, the teams that Treasure Valley competes about 2 or 3 times a year, depending on the sport, but they play them multiple times. And as you get used to watching TVCC sports, you get very used to knowing about the East Region competitors that they compete against. So let's start with meeting the colleges that participate in the East Region for all of the sports that participate in the NWAC. Again, there's rodeo and wrestling where they don't specifically compete in the NWAC. They compete at a different system. So there's that. So we're basically talking about men's basketball, women's basketball, soccer, volleyball, all that. And as of today, I'm trying to give the view more of a soccer and volleyball standpoint because we're going into those seasons here in the fall. It's around August, so in a couple of weeks we're starting to get into tournament stuff and actual competition before we get into the Mamma Jamma with the East Region play coming up for the 2026-2027 campaign. So we're going to be discussing each college, what year they were founded as a college. We're talking about the location, where they're located at, team color scheme as an athletic participant, and just to give you a little extra information, kind of the view of how long a road trip takes to get from Ontario, Oregon, which is where our Chucks are located in, to get to where they need to be. So if we're playing this specific team, this is how long the road trip would be. This is how long the road trip would be if they came to us in Ontario. That kind of perspective as well. So pretty simple stuff to give you the overview and the vision of who we're going to be playing the most out of this year, many years to come. Let's get into this. So the East Region participants, we're going to start with the Wenatchee Valley Knights. Wenatchee Valley College was founded in 1939, located in Wenatchee, Washington. The team color scheme is gray and black. And the time of travel from TVCC to Wenatchee, Washington is about a 6-hour and 7-minute trip, which is, first of all, easily the longest trip we'll have to make as an athletic participant in the East Region. The East Region has teams expanded pretty decently far from each other when it comes to the state of Washington and the state of Oregon, all expanded throughout. They're pretty randomized, it's not actually in the eastern side of Washington or Oregon. The regions aren't, there's obviously the north, south, east, and west regions, but the teams in them don't necessarily are located in the region that they say they are. So, for example, Wenatchee is pretty in the area in the area of like Seattle. They're not, I don't believe they're close, but they're like in the vicinity, if you know what I mean. Like they're pretty north for being in the East region, for that example. Blue Mountain is kind of in Central Oregon. I'd say that I'd say that TVCC is probably the team that is most normalized in being in an East region, because they're in Eastern Oregon, and it's pretty clear to see that on a map. So the name of the division fits well for the Chuckers, but it's kind of spread out as a region, and some other regions are like that as well. So I'd like to get that out there, just from saying that there is a 6-hour drive road trip for the Chuckers when they compete against the Wenatchee Valley Knights every year. Now, the Blue Mountain Timberwolves. The college was founded in 1962, located in Pendleton, Oregon. Team color scheme is blue and white with kind of a tertiary color sort of thing that's yellow. I think they implemented yellow in their logo, the Timberwolf logo. And from my understanding of things, it's a tertiary color, but it could be something different. But based on what I have, come to get used to and stuff, just based on their apparel and look, it's blue and white, pretty much. And the time of travel from Ontario to Pendleton to play the Timberwolves is about a 2-hour and 30-minute road trip. Now, the Spokane Sasquatch. This college was founded in 1963, located in Spokane, Washington. Team color scheme is kind of a mix of blue, some light blue, dark blue, sort of vibrance there. They did a rebranding as well, just last year or 2 years ago, kind of like us. And honestly, it's a pretty good looking logo. I think it's really cool. And I would say that rebranding is very successful from their point of view there. And to get from Ontario to Spokane takes about 5 hours and 20 minutes. So far, the Chuckers have a heck of a road trip season. When they're playing, away games, it's not a short trip, really, because, for example, the closest road trip from us is Blue Mountain Community College, and that's 2 hours and 30 minutes by itself. That's the closest trip. So there's a heck of a road trip, just all of these teams. There's long distance to get to play sports, especially in this region. And I just find that really funny because, it's the East region, but really, if you look at these teams on the map in the Pacific Northwest, it doesn't really match up to be kind of like that. But, that's all part of the fun of it. The travel is probably fun for the athletes, but it just makes some of these numbers, some of these distance timed numbers are pretty crazy, pretty funny stuff there. So now we're talking about the Columbia Basin Hawks. Columbia Basin was founded in 1955, located in Pasco, Washington. Team color scheme, another mix of blue. And the length of travel from TVCC to Pasco is about a 3-hour and 50-minute road trip. The Yakima Yaks, located in Yakima, Washington. The college was founded in 1928. Team color scheme is red and yellow. So, in my opinion, they look like hamburger jerseys, but, that's just me. If you keep watching, this podcast and stuff, you come to realize that there is sort of, from my view, there is sort of, there's sort of interesting variety when it comes to, apparel and, how jerseys look and all that stuff. And when it comes to the NWAC, I think there's a certain cool variety, from that. And you understand that if you go to a a team page or the NWAC page and you look at all these logos, there's just a very, very good variety of things happening with like the color scheme and the look of logos and how jerseys look. It's kind of a cool process, and I think it's different, from D1, D2 schools, for example. It's a really cool thing, especially because it's not necessarily talked about the most. That's what makes it unique. It's a unique process. It's a unique league. It's a unique experience. It's a unique environment. And I appreciate that. Probably one of the biggest appreciations for the NWAC and the East region and our Treasure Valley Chuckers as well. And the length of travel from TVCC to Yakima, Washington is about a 4-hour and 40-minute road trip. Walla Walla Warriors. Their college was founded in 1967, located in Walla Walla, Washington. Length of travel is about a 3-hour and 17-minute trip. And the team color scheme is a very solid, in my opinion, yellow and black sort of color scheme going on there. Big Bend, the Big Bend Vikings, they call them. Their college was founded in 1962, located in Moses Lake, Washington. Team color scheme is green and blue, pretty much. And the length of travel from TVCC to there is one of the most lengthy out of the East region as well, 5 hours and 30 minutes. And then that will get us to your Treasure Valley Community College Chuckers. College was founded in 1962 as well, located in Ontario, Oregon. Team color scheme is a very solid orange and dark blue. And I'd like to add that this team is really the only Eastern Oregon team in the East. I'd say the closest to that specific fact is Blue Mountain, but they're kind of in the central of the state of Oregon. And I just want to give that fact out there. They're pretty much the only solidified Eastern Oregon team in the East region, which again I find funny. But there you have it. There's the East region for you. This is the region where you see these teams play at least 2, maybe even 3 times in every sport. Obviously, it's different based on the sport that you're playing, but you're playing them at least 2 times a year, and you're gonna get used to them, especially as a Chucker fan, and getting used to the school and all that, and from the athletic side and stuff. You get very used to these 8 teams, and we had a team that actually left the East Region Conference a couple of years ago, the North Idaho Cardinals. North Idaho College, they actually bumped up to another level in collegiate sports, which in my opinion was probably the right thing to do. They were, just all around like beating the heck out of everybody. It was an interesting thing to watch, and it was kind of to the point where it was annoying, especially from the perspective of, TVCC and all the other teams that participated in the East. North Idaho kind of had certain, advantages when it came to, talent recruiting and all that, because they're a certain pipeline, a specific pipeline for, schools like Idaho, University of Idaho. They're pretty close, if I've understood that. And then there's even teams that are still in it, like Spokane. I'm almost certain that I bet Spokane is a pipeline for Gonzaga, because they're literally down the road. Gonzaga University is literally in Spokane, Washington. So I'm certain there's some sort of relationship pipeline of recruits that go in through to get their their 2 years of basketball experience, and then they go down the road to Gonzaga, where they're like a fourth quarter sort of platoon basketball player, and all these teams necessarily have their relationships and stuff, their connections, their pipelines, all that. especially recruiting pipelines, and it really aspects how we compete at a successful level, especially in 2026 in sports. It's all about connections. It's all about people. It's all about, it's all about the relationships with other people, other schools, and recruiting talent as well. And some of these schools have certain advantages that I don't want to get into because, there's nothing wrong with that. If you have an advantage, boom, you're right next to Gonzaga, Spokane was. Nothing wrong with that, Some certain advantages get you to where you need to be, and I'll just leave it there. Put that done there. And also, I'd like to say that we are going to be talking more about these teams, obviously, in the rest of the show. But first, we're going to kind of give our volleyball expectations going into the 2026 volleyball campaign. We're going to be talking about the athletic staff for the East Region teams at the end of the episode. But let's jump our way into the volleyball point of view of things for your TVCC Chuckers and around the East Region. All right, first we're going to start with the East Region teams to follow in these certain sports. So before we dive into specifically volleyball, just got to give you these generic statistics as well. So in volleyball, first of all, you should probably follow these teams just based on their overall consistency from the last 5 years. We'll elaborate more on that later in the episode. Volleyball, you should focus on Yakima Valley, Columbia Basin, and our Chuckers. In women's soccer, you should probably be focusing on the success of Spokane, Walla Walla, and Columbia Basin. Men's soccer, Spokane, Walla Walla, Columbia Basin. Women's basketball, Walla Walla, Big Bend, Columbia Basin, and your TVCC Chuckers. Men's basketball is a toss-up. I looked at the statistics and the overall rankings from the last 5 years in the East Region, and it's really different every year. You come to a point where you can't expect anything in men's basketball. It's kind of a crazy deal. But for example, we're going to talk about Blue Mountain for a minute. No shade on them. No hit on them negatively, but they kind of had probably not the most successful system and couple of years when it came to men's basketball specifically. And then last year suddenly they're in a region title race with us at TVCC specifically, and great for them, a great turnaround. And that's what I love about that sort of situation. It's just random every year. You can't expect anything. It's different every year. And it's a toss-up, We have to go deeper in statistics. We got to go deeper in the recruiting that's going on with each specific team in the region. And you gotta dig deeper to really understand what this year is going to be like, because I'm going to be honest, it's literally, you have no idea. You have no idea. It's different every year. Go to the NWAC page, go to men's basketball, look up last 5 years of statistics, the rankings, and look at the teams that jump, look at the teams that fall year after year, and then one year they can be the worst team in the East Region, and then the next year they've won the East Region title. It's crazy, it's fun, it's awesome, but doing this kind of specific stuff, you really don't know unless you dig deeper, and then you have to experience the season for yourself and see how it all plays out. So it's literally just a toss-up. Same for softball. Softball's kind of a toss-up as well. Kind of the similar situation. It really changes every year. Now, I'd say just if I wanted to be biased, I think TVCC has a very consistent softball program. Kind of had a down year last year, but softball works weirdly where it's different, how they get to the postseason, that process, how they obviously get chosen into that, and making that is a vision that obviously there's definitely some success coming out of the year, you know. And last year we didn't get into the postseason activities and competition, and our record was kind of down, you know. But other than that, we've really been a very consistently successful performance-based program here at TVCC for the softball program specifically. Now, to finish off that little deal, what teams to follow for specific sports, baseball. Spokane, first of all, definitely one of the most successful baseball programs in the whole NWAC as well. Columbia Basin, and again, the rest of it is a toss-up, you know. But it's fun, though. Trust me. It's fun to see the teams that jump randomly from year to year because they have 2 or 3 recruiting, you know, perfect moves to really transform your roster. And I think that was the case with Blue Mountain. They had studs on their roster, on their starting 5. They even had depth, you know. They had pretty good depth when it came to, you know, Blue Mountain basketball. And it was a really cool turnaround, you know. It was scary, though. We were pretty much in an East Region title race the whole year. Thankfully, we ended up taking that East Region title here at TVCC. But it was really cool to be competitive with the closest school that you have next to us in the East Region, Pendleton, Oregon, obviously. It was a really cool process to see, you know. And obviously, cross country, track and field, they have different statistics to measure overall success. So they don't follow a general program like record, you know, team record and stuff. You kind of have to look at different events and, you know, put this into that and then really look at team rankings as well. But you have to go from, like, you know, the event by event by event, and it's kind of an interesting process that probably do that in another episode just for that. Like I said in a earlier episode as well on What the Chuck, wrestling and soccer will probably get their own episode kind of to understand that process as well. Rodeo as well, definitely rodeo. But there is a different process to understand how successful these programs are: cross country, track and field, rodeo, wrestling, and even soccer. Kind of soccer is closer to the generic way of measuring success. That's why we discussed it today, but those will be discussed later on in another episode. And obviously, these are only based by consistency from the last 5 years. These are not in-depth statistics. These are not after seeing who got recruited to which school and all of that. We'll go more in-depth in another episode as well for that. Now, to finish off this little volleyball overall expectation, jumping right into volleyball at this point, the biggest achievement in the last 5 years in the sport of volleyball for every East Region competitor. This will give you sort of the idea of, like, okay, this team has been consistent, this team has been successful, they're probably most likely going to be a team worth, you know, following and watching coming into this year. Or, you know, nothing wrong with this. Or if you're a person that kind of looks at the teams like, you know, they not the best 5 years, but it'd be really cool to see them, you know, take that crazy jump like Blue Mountain did last year in men's basketball. So that's kind of the vibe I'm trying to get from this little portion of the episode. But here we go. Biggest achievement last 5 years. We're going to start with our Treasure Valley Chuckers. Obviously, the NWAC winning the NWAC championship in the 2025-2026 athletic campaign. Got a ring. Really awesome. Our first NWAC championship in any sport, really. And we did it with volleyball. The Blue Mountain Timberwolves, their biggest achievement in the last 5 years in the sport of volleyball for the East Region is they finished 6th in the East Region in the 2021-2022 campaign. Walla Walla Warriors, they finished 2nd in the East Region in 2021-2022. Yakima Valley, they were co-champs of the East Region last year with the TVCC Chuckers. had the same record coming out of region play and into the playoffs. So they share that East Region title. The Wenatchee Valley Knights in 2023 finished second in the East Region. Big Bend Vikings finished 7th in the East Region in 2021. Spokane finished 3rd in the East Region in 2021 as well, and the Columbia Basin Hawks won the East Region title in 2024. Those are the biggest achievements in the last 5 years for the teams in the East Region. Now, here is a kind of a cool fact here. The number of volleyball NWAC titles from East Region teams ever since the NWAC has been an athletic conference. A total number of 19 titles have belonged to East Region teams in NWAC volleyball. That's pretty dang good. Pretty dang good. And that shows how consistent and how, competitive this region is. And as we go on with like this show and stuff, you'll come to realize that this region is probably, in my opinion, probably the most difficult region, to get a region title in. I feel like every year is different, where you have pretty much every team in the East Region can just randomly figure something out, and then they're East Region titles. East Region title contenders and stuff like that. And, it's been like that for a couple of years. It's just always seemed like, man, it's like such a grind through the East Region. Don't get me wrong, it's great. But I just feel like there's like the competitiveness and, the difficulty of this region. It's just really cool to see. And you'll realize that when we come to the volleyball season as well. Now, let's wrap up this show today on the What the Chuck podcast. We're going to talk about the athletic staff from every East Region school. I'm talking athletic directors, program coordinators, head athletic trainers, all that, based on what the website gives you for staff directory and all that when it comes to athletic staff. This does not include the coaches. We will talk about that later on as well in a different episode. But these are kind of mostly the main big dogs when it comes to the colleges. So, like I said, athletic directors and all that. So, let's start with the Walla Walla Warriors athletic staff. Jeff Rhineland is the athletic director. Wanda Williams is the program coordinator. And I'll also give you the volleyball coach, just because we're getting into volleyball. So the volleyball coach at Walla Walla is Chelsea Spear. There you have that. Now, Spokane, the Spokane Sasquatch, their athletic director is James Fitzgerald. Travis Warner is their strength and conditioning coach. And their volleyball head coach is Brooke Kawa. Yakima Valley athletic staff, Ray Funk is the athletic director. The trainer is Ashley Rice. The athletic assistant, Brooke Rodriguez. And the head volleyball coach is Darcy Decker. The Big Bend Vikings athletic staff, Benjamin Griffin is the athletic director. Head trainer is Ruben Clements. Women's commissioner for Big Bend is Sydney Dickerson. And the volleyball head coach is Lindsay Linthicum. The Wenatchee Valley Knights athletic staff, Greg Sparling is the athletic director. Susan Blair Broxson is the athletic administrative assistant. Karina Lottie is the trainer. And the head volleyball coach at Wenatchee Valley is Tashina Weatherman. The Columbia Basin Hawks athletic staff, Scott Rogers is the athletic director. Spencer Rowland is the assistant athletic director. Nicole Walters is the trainer. And the head volleyball coach is Deshandra Gorey. The Blue Mountain Timberwolves athletic staff, Brad Baker is the athletic director. Jordan Hilmick is the assistant athletic director. Nicole Rico is the head trainer. And the head volleyball coach at Blue Mountain Community College is Kylene Grebe. Now, to wrap off this show of What the Chuck, we are obviously talking about our TVCC Chuckers. The athletic director is Tyler Gaston. The athletic coordinator is Riley Helmick. The trainer is Steve Payson. And the volleyball coach for your Chuckers in 2026 is Amber Fouts. That will do it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for watching this show tonight on What the Chuck. Have a great rest